Hi, it's December 28th, and I'm here interviewing my mother. I'm Paul. I'm the oldest of five, and we're just going to find out a few things about her that we don't know.
Hello. Not too many, I hope.
I'm good at cramming a lot of questions into a small amount of time, so we'll see what happens. But I guess my first question would be what is one of the most unusual things one of your children did regularly when they were small?
Well, I was just talking to your sister Jill about that, and I think one of the strange, unusual things was you trying to teach your dog Clancy to speak Spanish,
Oh,
count in Spanish, and then her finger painting poop on the wall after her nap one day. A little Jackson Pollock situation. That was unusual.
I'm glad I didn't have that problem. You know,
Oh, that was bad.
trying to teach a
Bad.
dog Spanish, that's
Yeah.
definitely livable.
Yeah, and you used to get up on the slide when I give you snacks to take out there so he wouldn't steal your snacks. You're always on the slide trying to stay away from that dog with your food. Yeah, that was unusual. But I'll tell you, you are, of all my kids, I've always said this, were the one that always were able to make me laugh the most. Always. You did the funniest things. Always the funniest things. Oh, I used to get such a kick out of you.
Yeah. I was told I was energetic when I was younger.
Slightly. Slightly so. That would be the understatement of the century, but
I guess my next question would be do you remember your family discussing world events and politics?
my immediate, you guys, or my family
Yeah,
from
your
childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Oh, my dad was always into the Russians.
The Russians?
Yeah, he just couldn't stand that was in the days where everybody had to practice diving under their desk at school for bombs hitting, and Russia was a big enemy, and so he was talking about them, and he always used to say, if I had charge of anything, I would take a bomb and just blow them the heck up, so, and end it all. So yeah, he used to get mad about them, and for a long time nobody was able to buy anything from Japan in our family because of the Second World War. He held a grudge a while.
Thank goodness we were somewhat friends with China during that time, because if not, you probably wouldn't have anything.
I know. I know.
How do you think Grandpa would feel about Trump being president?
Right now, the Russian situation, he would not like it at all. No, he didn't. He was not crazy about Russia.
I find it kind of interesting because I think there's a lot of political undertones that we don't get to see that are kind of playing out behind the scenes.
I think so too.
I think it's gonna, me personally, I think it'll be one of those issues where we'll give something to Russia, take something in return, and the same with China when it comes to regards to North Korea.
That's possible. He used to say that Roosevelt sold us out to Russia because of the agreement on land after the war.
Do you remember what was the agreement?
Well, certain countries got possession of the things that Hitler had, or they would take little chunks of this or little chunks of that as part of the agreement for settling the peace agreement, for everybody.
Land grab.
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
the war.
And he said we got sold out.
Germany's probably about a quarter of the size of Russia as far as land mass, I think, maybe
Oh,
to
it's
a third.
huge. I did a
Yeah.
study on Russia. It was absolutely unbelievable. It's 9 time zones.
Yeah. 4 of which you can't step into unless you've got,
I know.
some kind of heated suit on,
I know.
But
Yeah, we had a patient at Rose Blumpkin that was from Siberia, and she used to want to go out in the wintertime, and we'd say, oh no, you can't go out there in this weather. And she said, I'm from Siberia, I think I can take it.
she'd walk out in her underwear and be fine. So what would you consider the most important inventions during your lifetime?
My lifetime? Well, of course, the internet, the computers, and the cell phones. In my day, if you wanted to make a phone call and you weren't near a phone booth, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were some of the major inventions, and the rockets to the moon. That was pretty good.
Now, I'm going to bring up a really touchy subject here because I can remember growing up as a kid when the microwave came out.
Yep.
There
I
was
know.
no way in
Nope.
hell Mom
Nope.
was having a microwave in our house because of radio waves or microwaves or whatever, and she thought, it would fry my little brain.
Yeah, and I thought we'd all be fried. I even had a lady that wouldn't let her daughter stand in front of it because she wanted grandkids. So then I found out about, what is it, the Jacobian, or what is that screen they put in front of the microwave to protect the waves from coming out? Yeah, it's
I'm
got a specific name.
very unfamiliar with a microwave
and-
other than hit start.
So, yeah, and then I found out we're probably not all in jeopardy because of that protective shield they have there, microwave shield.
Not a Faraday cage, right?
Yeah, Faraday cage. That's it, exactly. Yeah, Faraday cage.
So of course, growing up, like compared to your era of living where everything was easily thrown in the microwave and warmed up, I had to, wait on an actual meal to be prepared and put in front of me, which of course, I never had a problem with. But
Or put in a pan and warmed up on the stove. There's no way you could just stick it in there.
Yeah.
When did we finally get one?
Oh man, I don't even know if it was while I lived at home.
I think my dad had one before I did.
Yeah, it was I think I was gone before you ever got one.
Yeah.
So, I have to admit I was shocked, when I came back and I come in your house and I'm looking around and, wait a minute, what do we got here? There's a microwave in this house.
I think it was until we had the fire and moved to the 12th Street, and they had one built in there, and that's the only reason that we had one.
I was wondering which house it was.
It was on the big blue one up there, yeah. Oh, well.
I could sure talk a little bit about the old house. Man, that was an amazing place.
Yeah.
It was a wow.
We all loved that house.
The construction of that house, a lot of time and meticulous went into building that. It was just an amazing place.
It was unique.
Yeah, it was very unique, and to find like newspaper clippings and stuff from clear back in the 50s,
You remember that's when you found those, when you were cleaning out the fireplace basement?
Yeah.
Yeah, you found a card that was sent to a Valentine, somebody or other that lived in that house in the 20s.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pit downstairs that held the ashes, because upstairs where the fireplace was, there was a little trap door that you could open up, and all the ashes would just fall down into the basement into it was like a brick,
Fireproof area.
like a brick column, hollowed out in the middle, so all the ashes would drop down in there. Well, I got tasked with cleaning that out, and I think I hauled out
That was a lot of
10 or 15 big, hefty trash bags full of ash from going back probably 60, 70 years.
Yeah, those 1920s, yeah.
Nobody emptied it?
I guess not.
I lost
That fireplace
my
was
thing
unique in
here.
itself. It was a beautiful fireplace.
Oh, there we go. Oh, let's see here. What person really changed the course of your life by something he or she did? You can use your son in this instance.
Well, I would say,
Your daughter.
I would say you did change the course of my life, because we waited 8 years for a kid.
Oh, wow.
And so we were so delighted to get you. I was telling on one of the other ones that, well, the first thing you did when they placed you in your dad's arms first, and the first thing you did was gave him a great big smile. That was it. Cinched it right there for him, And then, well, even like you were born in December, and Halloween you were like 10 months old or something, or somewhere in that area. We took you trick or treating. We had to hold you up to Aunt Helen to get her to do it, but we waited so long to have a kid to take trick or treating, you know. So.
Mm.
Style is gas.
Yeah. I knew, at a young age which side of the biscuit to butter,
Well, you were definitely your dad's boy, I'll tell you, because you guys.
What was your dad's life like before?
Before, well,
Just
Jill and
like-
I were talking about that today too.
Say like the
Oh,
year before.
The year before, oh well, we had a lot to go through to get the adoption finalized. We had to have 3 inspections of our home and our
Really?
background.
Huh.
We had to go into LA to get the whole thing started, and we had to go back there a couple of times to, sign papers, and we had to go to a lawyer to get that set up for the adoption. They needed some stuff from him, and then we had it at the end of it. We had to go to a judge and have it all. Everybody, you're legally that, and then you were able to get the birth certificate. So it was at least a year and a half of preparing.
Dad had to take time off too, probably.
Sometimes he did, yeah,
to
he
be
did.
home
Yeah,
doing
to go
inspection.
during the day. And
Yeah.
I remember the social worker's name that handled our case was Lydia Riffle. I always thought that was a cute name.
Lydia Riffle?
Riffle, yeah.
Huh.
She was a really nice, a nice lady.
I can remember even back when I was a kid, Dad took me to where he worked.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, I don't think we were there real long, but
In California?
yep. And I can remember the machine that he worked at, and he took me over to it, and he would actually have to climb a ladder, it had a couple steps on it, and he stood in one central location, and the machine was just way above his head and everything. And it was, of course I was really young then, but I can still picture that machine in my mind today, and I understand now that, with what Dad did, he was a machinist, and he spun these big cylinders that you see on street sweepers.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that have the brushes and all that.
That's when he worked down there, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was FMC. I remember that.
Uh-huh. That's right.
And
How old were you?
huh?
How old were you?
Oh gosh, much more than 7.
Yeah, I wasn't very old, but I can still remember that machine in my mind. I remember seeing the metal shavings everywhere, and
It's so funny because he took me to AT&T.
Did he?
His lathe and his,
Mhm.
his machine shop and everything, his bike that he rode, everything. And I remember seeing the lathe. It was a lot smaller.
Yeah.
Because I think by that time machines have shrunk.
Yeah.
And I remember the metal shavings on his socks.
Yeah,
that
oh,
would
always.
That he'd always bring home and
Yeah.
everything. And
Yeah.
boxes of shavings there.
Do you remember the name of his bicycle?
No.
Just Frank.
Just Frank,
No.
because they asked him, what do you want us to put on your bicycle for
Just Frank.
Just Frank? So that's what they put on it. Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's weird because I had a nameplate on my desk that actually said just Susan because I went through going from Smith to Wheeler or Beck to Wheeler to Smith, and I'm like, you know what? Forget the last name, just Susan. It was Susan.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing, because Dad used to tell me stories about riding his bike at AT&T, and he'd slither around a corner to have a cigarette, and the security guards would be watching for him and stuff, and try to write him up for smoking where he wasn't supposed to and stuff like that. And,
They're always doing stuff.
yeah, and I just get a kick out of, trying to bicycle all over that plant to find a spot to sneak a cigarette,
So you were one of the main things that changed my life, and then Susan was the other because she was the big surprise in the
Yeah.
picture, and I could not believe it. I would not even believe it when they phoned the test in. Your dad answered the phone because I couldn't stand answering it. And when they said it was positive, I made him call him back, and I don't believe it.
Thought it was a false
Yeah,
positive?
I thought it was, yeah.
So, in comparison to price-wise, adopting Paul, and
Very,
having us,
yeah, it was, there was a lot of kids available for adoption, and it was not pricey at all. We had, of course, we had to go to get the lawyer and all that stuff and prepare for you,
Yeah.
So that was the only thing. And, we didn't have a lot of money, so it was a good thing.
Yeah. If you had to pick a label for your family members, spouse, children, mother, father, brother, sister, who fits each of the following descriptions? Best housekeeper.
The best.
Not happening.
I guess that would be because my mother really, she wasn't all. I was used to clean up for her because yeah, she would like things neat, but there was a lot of clutter, so I would vacuum for her because I was always the neat person. But I would say, yeah, probably it's Susan, but also Corey.
It's a close second with Corey.
It is.
We're right there.
They're running neck and neck. Yeah. Yeah. My mother said when she came to doing laundry, she'd have to find the dirty clothes out of the stuff all over Aunt Helen's floor of her bedroom. For me, she'd have to look in the closet because I hung everything up. She'd have to make sure what was dirty and what was clean hanging up. So I was just neat Nick from the start.
How about the calmest?
The calmest person in my, that would probably be, well, not so much, but I would say my grandfather.
Oh.
Yeah, he was chill. He was a chill guy.
What about as far as your kids?
My kids,
Yeah,
the calmest
who would
one.
be the calmest?
Well, I would have to say it would be Corey because he was, by the time you get to the
Please.
youngest one, you're a little more adept at what you're doing. And he really, he went to sleep well and he had a good routine. Although you were on a good routine too when we got you. I mean, you were just boom, bed, all the food, feeding things were right, Until you hit a certain age and then all you did was scream and jump your crib to the door, open the door and look out at us and say, what's going on, folks, You're about 18 months old.
How about the most frugal?
The most frugal of you would be, I don't know, I'm going to say Daniel.
Oh, I can see that.
I'd almost have to agree.
Yeah.
He does pretty well for being a single dad and works and
Yeah.
pays his rent. And
Yep.
he always has food on the table for his child. And
Budget, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. He knows how to pinch a penny.
Oh, here's one that I really like. Most mischievous. Now I know I'm going to
Well-
rank in the real low
well,
bottom category on this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah. You're numero uno. By speaking Spanish, you should taught your dog.
Me?
Uno.
I was the most mischievous?
Oh my gosh! But also the most. I mean, you got me in stitches. Oh my gosh! The things you did were hysterical. Gosh, it was funny.
Can you name one?
Well, for one time, we just moved into our house on Hunt Street, that really nice place. And I always made you say your prayers. So I had you kneel down by the bed, and I said, now, say your prayers. And I thought you were going to have your eyes closed, and I went over to straighten a picture on the wall. So you get up and go like this to the wall to say your prayers, like that's the position you're supposed to be in. And I try not to laugh at stuff like that. One day you came out because this guy on Sesame Street was a cook with a hat on, and he would always fall down with his hat, and he came out with your shorts over your head, and you fell down with those. You're just really a very comedic type of a kid. So it made up for a lot of the stuff, but you were really mischievous. Oh boy.
For that prayer thing, did you just let him finish? Like, did you just
Right.
I mean, I was trying not to laugh. It was so hard not to laugh, I couldn't believe that he thought that was the position I was. Anyway, he's only 2, so. And then you'd stick your sister in the closet, and you got tired of having to deal with her. You'd stick her in the closet and shut the door.
Jill?
Yeah, she was like just crawling around, so you could get rid of her that way,
And you allowed him to walk the 3 of the younger ones, rock us to sleep. Did
What-
you not think we were going to be hidden somewhere?
I think he was thinking all the time he was
The whole
doing
time.
it, how he would like to, get you guys somewhere.
Talk about cruel and unusual punishment, Once again, you guys didn't have to go through that.
We
'Cause-
did, because you were the one rocking us.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to go outside and play or do anything until you clowns were sleeping. Yeah. Yeah. So it was always, yeah, shut up. Shut up. And then eventually you'd pound off.
And we had 3 TV stations, and you had nothing to watch that time of the day anyway. 'Cause it
Soap
was-
operas. And the soap operas were always going while Mom had her afternoon phone call on the phone, so she
Marlita.
was always in the kitchen.
Hour and a half.
And I would
with
be out in the
Marlita
chair
every day.
watching the same soap opera she was watching. It was As the World Turns came first, then it was The Guiding Light, and then I think there was something after that.
Probably General Hospital or something.
Oh, it was horrible. Horrible. And then on Saturdays, I can remember on Saturdays, before I could watch Wide World of Sports, I had to sit through an hour of Lawrence Welk. And let me tell you, you talk about painful.
Yeah.
Not different, Lawrence.
As a kid, watching Lawrence Welk, that was painful.
Well, I watch him every Saturday as it is now, and you can always join me anytime.
Oh,
You'd like to come and watch him.
Once
with
in a
me.
while I see that it's on, and I try. I can't.
I
still
love the
can't.
songs on there. I love
every Saturday for years.
Yep.
You know, I remember, this is kind of cruel, but I remembered praying that the man would just die, thinking that his program would be taken off the air.
Never
Well,
was.
the man's probably been dead 40 years and he's still on TV
Still
now.
on TV, longest running program.
It
And
was
the one,
it was
and
rough.
The 2. Boop, 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 boop. Bubbles everywhere.
Oh, and then there was always Bobby and Sissy.
Bobby and Sissy.
Yeah, Bobby always was wet under his nose.
No,
from
that was the one that Susan couldn't stand. That was the singer. She always thought he had snot under his
Yeah.
nose, but it was sweat.
Yeah,
you know?
he sweated from the spotlight or whatever. Have you ever had any nicknames as a child or as an adult, and where did they come from?
I had 2 nicknames as a kid. One was Poncho. I
Pancho?
don't know where that came from. And the other one was Peanuts, because that was my snack of choice.
Oh,
So I was usually eating a peanut or something. I had something in my hand at all times, and it was usually peanuts.
Good. She didn't know the one we gave her. All right, we're good.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to know that one.
Why Poncho?
I don't know why. I mean, I was always
Who called you it?
my neighbors,
Oh.
and then for me, a lot of times they would call me Schweinesockels, which was my mother started that up because that's German for pigtails,
Oh.
and it's I had long pigtails for years, and so they would call me Schweinesockels.
So Poncho and Emma, was
Yeah.
that really his name?
No, his name was
Dennis.
Dennis. Yeah, Dennis. Yeah. I don't know, there's something about Poncho everybody liked around this area, I guess.
so what responsibilities did you have at home when you were young?
Well, I had to take care of my animals, and I had to help my mom with dishes, which Aunt Helen and I were supposed to coincide with. She always talked me out of it. And I did always ended up doing most of the dishes, especially on days we had company with stacks and like this. Well, if you do them today, I'll do them tomorrow, and then tomorrow never came.
Yeah.
I was out there washing them again the next day.
What kind of animals?
I had a cow and a horse, and we had a lot of hogs and stuff that I used to go hang out.
Like a dog and a cat, right?
Well, I had that too, but
yeah.
a lot of them, a lot of dogs and cats.
Yeah.
But I had to make sure the hogs had and the cows had water every day, and then sometimes I'd have to slop the hogs, which was always
I remember
Amazing.
doing that as a kid.
Yeah.
Helping Grandpa slop
Yeah.
the hogs out.
boy, that's a messy job.
Oh,
And we used to throw things out to them. I couldn't believe it was fun to watch them eat because my mother would can peaches and we'd throw the peach skins and stuff out to them to eat. And the pits, and they could eat those pits like popcorn.
oh man.
You know how hard those things are?
Yeah.
Whew, I just think, what if they got a hold of you? That'd be the bone to be gone.
Yeah.
So,
Why did you slop hogs?
just to help Grandpa.
Yeah.
He had him didn't you make dill pickles with him too?
Yeah, I did. I know we made root beer one time.
Root beer, yeah.
Was that in the bathtub?
Root beer.
Yeah, root beer.
Yeah, it really was
we,
root
we
beer.
made actual root beer. It was in a trash can, a plastic trash can. We mixed it up. He didn't have any root beer bottles, so he went down into the basement and pulled up like hundreds of old sherry bottles, and we rinsed them out and everything. and we'd pour the root beer in them and then put the root beer in the cellar, and I'd go to get one, and anytime you took a drink of root beer, it tasted like wine.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get the wine out of the...
You know, he had a bunch of wine bottles that he
Oh,
probably saved
man.
down there.
And, you know, he used to make homemade wine and stuff like that.
He
And
sure did.
I can remember, you know, as getting a little bit older, we'd sneak down and grab a couple bottles of it. But, I mean, one drink of some of that stuff he had down there, and it was horrible.
Not
You
good.
couldn't even force yourself to drink it.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
It was strong.
Yeah, it was horrible.
When we lived in California, we had a nice house out there. He made homemade beer in the garage. So he was always making some kind of brew.
Yeah. He was definitely skilled in that area. He even made dandelion wine, stuff like that, yeah. There wasn't a fruit or vegetable out there that he couldn't make something out of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So those were my chores, and I would like clean house for my mom sometimes, but I wasn't overburdened with chores, but I did a lot.
So how do you feel about growing old?
I feel like it's a good thing, that the alternative is probably not so good. So
Well,
if you don't grow old, you're dead. So that's probably a good thing, you know.
and if you
but
could, if you could
I-
go back to any age, what age would it be and why?
Well, I think my 40s were the best decade.
Really?
Yeah, they were just the best. You just, I told Susan this one time, you know, you've got your life. You don't feel like you have to impress anybody. You know what you want in life, and you're set pretty much the way you're going to be. And you have your own mind, and you just feel confident about yourself. And I think the 40s is the best decade. Yeah. Up mid 50s, not bad, you know. But
See, you notice that nowadays in neighborhoods. It's, you know, like I bet you would even notice it. You know, like the neighbor goes out and gets a brand new car. Then it's like a couple weeks later, you see another neighbor up the street got a brand new something, and it's like one size bigger, or you know, maybe a little bit more fancier than the one the neighbor bought down the street. And then you see another one trying to up one on that one, and you kind of tend to see that in the neighborhoods, you know, keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. And I would have to agree with Mom. I could care less about that anymore. If I had a Ford Pinto station wagon, I'd be, you know, parking that baby in the driveway and slapping wax on it. You know, that's how it
if
would
somebody
be.
tells you you should be doing this or that, you just say, go take a hike. I know
Yeah.
what I'm doing. I like the way I'm doing it, you know. So
Like-
it's a good decade. I like it a lot. But, you know, when you talk about growing old, it's tough. You can't be a sissy to grow old, I'll tell you. So I don't recommend it to anybody. But then the other thought is what's waiting on the other side. I'm looking forward to that one. So hopefully, you know.
If you live another 20, 30 years, what will you do? Do you want to live another 20, 30 years?
No, I think, you know, 80s is plenty for me. Seriously. I don't want to be 95 and 100 years old. That's not my cup. I don't have no desire to do that. So, but who knows? You do what God has in mind for you.
Well, that's true.
You don't worry about what you might miss,
No,
like technology.
because I know
wise
what.
or
No,
advancements in
I really.
medicine
Well,
or-
you know how I'm so into technology
It took her forever to get a flat screen TV.
and a microwave.
Yeah, trust me. Suffered for years without a microwave.
Yeah. So, no, and you know, I know what I got waiting for me, so I'm looking forward to that too.
I'd also ask, you know, what things are most important to you now and why?
My family,
Yeah.
because they mean the most to me. That and my my relationship with Jesus. That's probably number one. But family, that's it for me. Yep.
I'm going to ask this question because I was having a chat with Corey about this. What organizations or groups have you belonged to?
Oh, not many. But I do belong to pro-life organization. I belong
Yeah,
to that.
I do remember that.
And I belong to, let's see, there really wasn't very many. I belong to a book club. church things, you know, a lot of church things.
Yeah, lots of church
Yeah, a
things.
lot
I
of
can
church
remember
things.
that as a kid. I was starting to wonder whether I lived at home or lived at the church, you know.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff there. And
Like what? Like VBS and things like
VBS,
Oh.
Sunday school, I went on Wednesday. They had Wednesday services then too. I went to them.
that? Were you Catholic?
No,
No.
Baptist.
No, that was like Bible study on Wednesdays, and they have that now here at this church too. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think we identified as Baptists for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
that,
still do.
yeah, and it seemed to me, you know, like it seemed like if I was to look at it now, maybe a bit more aggressive, or at least when you compare them all, maybe with the exception of Catholics or whatever, that Baptist was kind of a more aggressive religion
Yeah,
sect compared to more Presbyterian or Lutheran.
Yeah.
And
I
you know,
disagree.
and I'm Lutheran, and I still don't even comprehend all the stuff that you know Lutherans do. I just
Well-
know go to church and
The Baptists are strictly by the Bible, and
Yeah.
they're 100% with what the Bible
Yeah.
does. You know, at least the ones that don't run around causing all these freakish things that some of the Baptist people did. But yeah, so
And I would say the church we went to back then wasn't, you know, it wasn't even remotely as aggressive as some of these Baptist churches are now.
Yeah.
But
Like, what do you mean by aggressive?
aggressive with their, you know, like with their teachings, you know. I would say that, you know, like homosexuality, you know, in the Baptist community, that's a big
yeah,
no-no.
it still is.
Yeah, very big no-no, and you know they were kind of more, you know, they would go out, you know, door to door,
Yeah, that
knock
kind of-
on people's doors, and try to preach to them and convert them, and
Some people refer to them as Bible thumpers.
yeah, exactly, kind of like the Jehovah
Yeah.
Witnesses, but maybe not as
Not as bad as Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
that's for sure. But you always try to present the gospel to people.
Did that like die off when we were
Must
going?
have. I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
No, but the a lot of the elders and stuff used to do it. Yeah, and they used to do a lot of visitations to people that would come to churches to visit. They go and visit with them, you know. So most of the leadership would do it now, if they do it at all now. Now they pretty much do it by
Yeah, they have the restaurant Bible studies and things like that where, you know, people, you know, kind of capitalize on the fact you can have breakfast, you know, while you're being preached to and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is, you know, fine and dandy. I just remember, you know, it seemed like there was Wednesday night Bible study. There was, you know, church plays that I was always involved in, sung in the church choir, you know, had to do this, had to do that.
Yep, always.
And it was just like, you
Yeah,
know.
well, it kept you busy.
Yeah, it kept me busy. That was, and of course, that is the intent. But as a kid, it was like, you know,
Why do I have to do
yeah, it was horrible, you know. Which
Well-
it wasn't really horrible though, you know, because some of my friends went there too. But
Yeah.
but
They
it
had
was
some
just,
fun there.
you know, always having to sit during the sermon and not move for an hour, you know. And I'm a hyperactive child.
No kidding.
So, you know, sitting for a whole hour without doing anything was just,
Horrible.
yeah, it was, oh, it was rough.
Too bad you can't interview the nursery lady that took care of you first. Ooh. Whoa, that poor lady. I don't know how she did it. She had a whole bunch of other ones there too. And you by far would be the one climbing over the Dutch doors when I come to get you. You know, that was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
She deserved a medal.
What has been your favorite vacation? Where did you go and why was it special?
Well, Hawaii.
Oh,
I always wanted to go there, and it was just beautiful, just like I pictured it would be.
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I went over it, under it, around it, and through it. I did all the tours you could possibly do. It was great. Beautiful place.
That-
One that you went by yourself, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and then the most memorable one was when your dad decided we would drive back here on vacation, and we were at, the car broke down, and you were 5, and no, you were 6, and Jill was like 4, maybe
Yeah.
a little younger even. So there we were, broken down in near Provo, Utah.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he was going to get water and went down a hill to get water, and Paul's in the back seat. Dad's gone. That's it. Dad's gone. We're wiped out. So we're all sitting there. This guy comes by on a motorcycle and stops and says, "Are you having trouble?" "Oh, no, we're not having trouble. We're just sitting here viewing things, you know."
Yeah.
And there was a lake over here that you could see fish this big swimming in. Seriously. They were getting close to the surface, you know, when he's in the back seat. Dad's gone. We're wiped out. We're done for. We ended up making it to Provo, selling the car and taking the bus.
Oh.
And then on the bus, this was my favorite memory of that, because you wanted more water. Couldn't get water on the bus, so you were sitting there, water got her,
Yeah.
water got her, for at least 50 miles. It must have driven everybody crazy on that. It was driving me crazy. I was his mother, you know.
Water got her.
I remember that.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do a little bit.
Wow.
What a backhand.
I don't remember being on the bus, but I just
Yeah, we were
remember.
on the bus, and that's what we started our vacation on the bus
Oh.
here, flew back.
And I find it interesting now because, you know, as a truck driver, I go to Salt Lake quite a bit, and I always see the turnoff for Provo,
Yeah.
you know, and I look at it and I'm thinking, I've been up there.
Boy,
you
that
know.
place, though, you know, you Mormons, you know, they don't always agree with what we agree with, but man, those people treated us nice. They were kind, and we sold that car, and they took it without a pink slip,
Wow.
and trusted us to send a pink slip to them. And they provided information of where we could get things done and what to do and all. So
Why didn't you have the pink slip?
because, well, you don't take the pink slip with you when you think you're not going to break down and sell your car, you know. It was at
Oh,
home.
the title.
The title, yeah.
The title.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the registration, and it's always
Well,
in
the
car.
title, yeah, it was the title. So, yep.
That was your most memorable, or was it favorite or most memorable?
The favorite was Hawaii. That was
Yeah.
probably the most memorable. Then we got back here, and your dad borrowed one of my brother's cars to go see Uncle Dick in Cedar Bluffs, and on the way back, the car overheated.
Wow.
Here he was again. So my brother said, "The curse of the hot water is upon you, Frank." That was bad. Oh man.
Mm.
Vacation back here? Back
Yeah,
to here?
we came back to see my mom and dad, and you know, they had never really seen Jill either, you know. So
And it was just you four?
yeah, that was just before you guys were born.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't until we moved back here to California that all of us were in the
Yeah, then-
classic Malibu station
Yeah,
wagon.
and with the plant on top of everything else, we had a
Oh.
plant in there, and you were in the front seat with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my neck was so stiff when I got back here from turning around going, "You guys, blah, blah, blah." And they were laying in the back, you know, no seat belts,
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
Lay in the back of the station
Him
wagon.
specifically. I remember
Yeah.
him specifically back there, like to that window, just watching.
Yeah, I mean,
everything
you know,
up to that
nobody,
back window.
we all,
Way back.
and we all survived. Nobody had a seat belt, nobody got tickets, nothing. But if we slammed on the brakes, everybody went on the floor, but
And then Scream did it again.
I remember that trip because didn't we get snowed in somewhere too? We had to
well,
spend.
yeah, your dad had never driven in snow, and this was
Ugh.
in where you go all the time.
Yeah.
in,
Salt Lake. 'cause it
no,
was around-
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, yeah.
oh, it was Cheyenne, we stopped
Cheyenne.
at?
West where we was staying in that really nice motel.
Oh, Little America.
Yeah.
Spiral staircase.
Spiral staircase, and I remember we were sitting in the restaurant, and these people came, all you guys sitting around the table, and these people came by and said, "You have such a nice family." And I thought, if you had only been traveling with them as much as I've been, you know, but I said, "Thank you," you know.
We'd all be standing on the shoulder of the interstate.
So, so yeah, that was we had snow there, and I told your dad it's different when you drive in snow and ice, Frank. And he slams on the brakes at the first, stop sign.
Yeah.
Then we were following semis, which were spitting stuff back on us. And that was in, there was still some pretty, high country there.
Yeah, it was probably Rollins, Laramie area.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Do you remember going up over mountains and stuff?
Salt Lake.
In Salt Lake,
that
yeah.
was a doozy, yeah.
Yep. That's Parley and the Sisters when you get right into Evanston, Wyoming. I go over those all the time.
A big gorge we went over.
A big gorge.
Between California or somewhere around. It was in near Salt Lake though. I mean, it was like a big bridge and a gorge underneath it. And it was kind of nighttime, and I thought, this is really scary because it was down there. I was deep.
Yeah.
For the river under it.
Go across Continental Divide and all that. It's just wide open, nothing. Stuff really only miners are out there.
Of course, your dad took a shortcut through in Utah, and we ended up in this red clay area. It was where people go to tour things,
Oh yeah.
And we were
Fort Bridger and places
out there
like that.
Lost, we were lost. That's what it was. So.
I'm just picturing National Lampoon's
Yeah.
Vacation,
Yeah, that movie's pretty much hit home.
Dad
Yeah.
has to go and hike for it all. He's gone. He's done for.
Oh boy.
Pants over his head,
Oh man, that was some trips.
Do you remember your great grandparents?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's
Well, I
interesting.
don't. I remember one visit with my great grandfather Hezekiah.
Hezekiah was his
He was
name.
103 when he died, and he was probably about 101 when I met him. And I remember going up to him. He was just a nice old grandpa looking. And I gave him a kiss, and he said, "That's the nicest kiss I ever had." I'll always remember him saying that. But I only saw him once, and then my grandmothers, they were all dead. I
Really?
didn't have any grandmas. Yeah,
So this was on your dad's side?
that was
then?
on my dad's side.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember my grandfather. Oh, that was my buddy. Yeah, he was my true friend, and when I followed him everywhere when I was a kid.
What was his name?
William.
William.
Yeah, they called him Will.
Wow.
I was talking to Susan about him a little bit the other day, and he was quite a player. After he split up with my grandmother, they had 8 kids together, and she wanted to go to California. He didn't, so she said, "I'm going." She went out to go to California, and they don't think they ever got a divorce, but that was the end of it.
Wow.
And so then he started having a lot of different women. And my Aunt Ann, he lived in Council Bluffs, and he had a little house there. She would go throw the women out about twice a year and clean his house up and get it on him about that, and then when he was about 90 years old, and he came out to stay with my dad in California for a while, and we took him for a ride. Your dad and I did in around in this canyon area, and there was a restaurant, and we stopped in there, and he made a date with the waitress. And so we thought it was just a joke, but he's serious about it, and he got mad at your dad for not taking him back up there that night to pick her up.
Wow.
So 90 years old.
He was 90?
Mm-hmm.
Made a date with her that night.
Yeah. Your dad wouldn't take him back up.
Wow.
A little blocker.
Well, think about it. She agreed. That's something else, right there. Yeah. But he was my friend. He was a good guy.
Where did you meet your great grandpa?
My great grandpa lived in, I believe it was Crescent. We went over there.
Crescent, Iowa?
Yeah, that's where he was
Wow.
at.
But you were friends with your grandfather, not the great grandfather.
My grandfather, yeah, was my buddy. But yeah, he lived to be 103. My great grandfather. He homesteaded in Bassett, Nebraska,
Really?
and he lived in Fremont for a while. Susan just met a woman that's named Krogan, and said that the tales in her family was that when he homesteaded there, he hid money in the walls and buried it outside. He was really a penny pincher,
Yeah.
But
Wow.
he offered to put my dad through medical school. And he was going to do it, and then he changed his mind. I always thought he would have made a great doctor, my dad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He,
Hmm.
But he decided to go the way of his choice, and that was anything but education. So.
Yeah. Did you find that you had to treat each of your children differently? If so, why?
Yeah, I tried to be fair with you guys. Like my mother used to do. You share this apple. She'd make the person that cut the apple give the other one the first choice.
Yeah.
Try to be fair.
Yep.
I try to keep things even. Each got the same amount of Christmas presents, birthday presents, not too much more expensive on one. Tried to. And but the rest of it, yeah, you were all different. That's what made it so interesting. Yeah, it made my life interesting, all of you.
Yeah, it's we find, raising our kids, and especially having twins, that, we had to buy two of the same thing,
Yes.
maybe a different color, but they had to be almost the identically same thing.
Right.
And it was always challenging.
It is trying to make everything equal.
Yeah. And the only time that ever changed was when they were 16 and wanted cars.
Oh.
So we thought, we could buy one car and they could both share it. No.
That's not
They
happening.
made it a point to make sure they had 1,000 different things going on, and they were all conflicting with each other, so that we would have to go out and buy a second car so that, they would both be able to drive to school and everything. And, it was we got a chuckle out of, all the little conflicting stuff that they had coming up all the time as to why they couldn't share a car.
Yeah.
One did sports, one wouldn't, just to make sure there was a conflict there. And so it was
They're
kind of
pretty good
funny.
at figuring
One time
things
they
out.
finally worked together. It's,
Yeah, exactly. And it was for a common goal for them, see, so they benefited from that.
did you ever find it like you didn't need to buy two things? Like, did one ever? I didn't really want that or anything, or they always
Nope.
wanted the equal?
Oh no, if you bought one, you better have a second one, because that's just the way it was, And Tony, the middle child, he was, you could buy him something and he was okay with it, and really no matter what it was, he didn't really seem to care all that much. Until, of course, the video games started coming out, and then it was a big thing with him. But so, you didn't spoil any of your children, right?
Well, I don't think I spoiled you much, but maybe some.
I
know
might have to
everybody-
disagree with that.
Everybody is talking about Corey being the spoiled one.
Well, I'm not gonna say spoiled. I'm gonna say that, like, what I noticed between the discipline regiment with me and Jill, as compared to maybe Danny and Corey when they were in their teen years, I thought was
Different.
a lot different.
It was.
And of course, I will concede to the fact that times were a lot different too.
Yeah, and I'll say, like Rose Kennedy said when Teddy Kennedy was in all that trouble, well, how do you account for his behavior? And she said, well, by the time you get to the last one, you get tired.
Yeah. yeah.
That's about it.
So yeah, I think you were probably awarded a few more privileges or whatever than
And
than I would have ever been allowed.
a person learns a little bit along the way too, not much, but a little bit.
Did you guys ever stop to consider that I learned from you guys, and where I could and could not get away from things?
There you go.
Oh sure, yeah. I think it's a learning process with any family that has a good chunk of kids running around. If you see the older one getting in trouble for something, you automatically know, okay, I need to stay away from that.
Or else be smarter about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I understand that definitely.
Yeah.
So then, if you had to do it all over again, would you change the way you raised your family?
Well, I have said that I think I put a lot of responsibility on you and Jill when I went to work with the other ones, the younger ones. I think you guys, well, you were kind of out and gone by then, but Jill had a lot of responsibility taking care of them and trying to keep the house somewhat. But I think I would have changed maybe that part of it. And also, I think I might have thought once or twice about choosing a career and just stayed home with them. Yeah. Which is what your dad wanted anyway.
He wanted you to stay
Yeah,
home?
he was old school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he liked the woman at home maintaining, and he could go out and go to work and not worry about anything.
He didn't let on like that. Like
Nope,
like
he
that,
didn't,
did he?
but that's
You know?
exactly the way he felt.
I just remember, like with him, I always remember he never ever came home without a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And in fact, Danny's first words to him usually were to your dad when he came home, when he was like 3, is "bye-bye bread," because he knew he'd get to go to the store with him.
Yeah.
And
Buy bread.
yeah, and that's when he said his famous words that everybody thinks so hysterical,
Yeah.
because somebody pulled out in front of your dad, and your dad goes, "Damn," and he goes, and Danny's like 3 or so, and he's going, "Oh shit, that's a no word." He was pretty funny in his way too, but we'll have to save that for his interview, I guess. That was so funny.
Oh, I'm telling you, the stories.
Yeah, so he was always going to the store for more milk or more bread. Yeah, I never had enough of that. We went through at least a gallon of milk a day when you guys got bigger.
I can only imagine, I mean, him,
Yeah, everybody, So, yeah,
No, I'll ask one more question, maybe.
okay.
I would ask you how old you were when you started dating, but seeing as how you were married at 16,
Yeah,
it couldn't have been much before that.
yeah, probably 14.
Did you
Wow.
date anyone else before?
Yeah, quite a few people. Quite a few people before, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, most of them look like Fonzie.
What was the date? What was the date like from the last person before you met Dad?
Well,
Remember that?
yeah, they were just, the
Standard Joe.
fake type people that trying to put on a big macho thing. And your dad, he wasn't like that at all.
He was real.
Yeah, he was real. Yeah. That was why we could talk and have such a good time right off the bat. He was just down to earth.
Well, my last question would be then, were there any fads during your youth that you remember vividly?
Fads, I guess.
And I can remember from seeing pictures, that I know that the hair,
Oh my
big
gosh,
poofy
yeah.
hair, was big.
That, and then you always had to wear your blue jeans rolled up a certain way, and then there was the poodle skirts, and
Elephant bells.
yeah, and it just just all those typical teenage things, and I don't know. I guess that's about all the fads I can think of, other than I don't know, things that people did, together,
What did you do?
What did I do?
Did you follow any
Oh yeah, I was trying to go along with most of the program,
Yeah.
which I never succeeded very well, but yeah, that was about it.
So could you imagine Dad doing the whole sagging thing, like like they do now? Wear your underwear up and your pants down almost to your knees, walking
well,
around.
he used to have a little problem
I was
keeping
gonna say anyways.
occasionally.
He might have been the originator of
Yeah,
that.
really.
It was both underwear and pants. Always rocking the
Yeah,
crack.
he always
He didn't preference anything.
Yeah.
like bend over and crack a smile.
Yeah, I remember, man. I remember a lot of things,
So you were an eventful event in our lives, and we truly appreciated you all the way through, whether one way or the other. We did, even though sometimes it didn't seem like it.
Oh, I know. I look back now on my childhood, and I say, well, I didn't do too terribly bad, I had a few run-ins with the law and stuff with stupidity, and I base it all on stupidity, and I think just like most people think, if I could go back and do it all over again, Mom said she would go back to her 40s, and I think I would go back to when I was in high school.
Oh, you like that?
Well, I would do that because there's so many things I wanted to change.
Oh,
Actually study and learn something, maybe go on to college, maybe had picked a different career path. Not that I don't like the one I'm in, but, I might have done something a lot different.
Well, look at this, how you graduated with those honors when you did get to college. I was so proud of you with that. I mean, you had so much stuff hanging around your neck. It was unbelievable,
And I worked hard for every bit of
know
it
you
too,
did.
and that included going back and taking classes that probably would have been considered high school level, just so that I could, get my brain kick-started in the right direction to focus on college classes and everything. And it was
I was real
it
proud
was
of
tough,
you with that.
you know.
I look
but-
at that picture we have on there of you and me when you had your graduation from college, and that I really enjoyed looking at that thing. I remember.
Yeah, I worked hard for that. And
You sure did.
Did you feel like that was a second chance? Like, if you could go back, well, this is your opportunity. As if you were to go back, so you wanted to work harder and do
Yeah.
extra work.
well, the military was paying for it all, and I thought, well, being the position I had in the military, I kind of thought to myself, and we always have the mentality that failure is not an option. And so, I knew that I was going to have to work hard to be above par on all this. I didn't want to just be average. I wanted to be above average for a change, because in the military, throughout my career in the military, for the first so many years, I just wanted to be a follower, and that was it. Just tell me what to do, I'll go do it, and leave me alone. But I finally got to the point where I started hating some of the rules, and I hated the way things were being done. So I was complaining to a sergeant one day about it, and he looked at me and he goes, if you hate it so much, get promoted and do something about it. And I said, well, that's not a bad idea. So I did. I kept getting promoted, and then finally I was in a position where, the basic ground rules would come down, and I could either add or subtract from them to make my own rules. So I got to a position where I was making my own rules. And so with that in mind, I started making rules that were more fair, I thought. I allowed for a lot more individual thinking instead of a collective being ordered by one. And with that, I thought I had some pretty decent success with that,
I think you did.
Yeah, it developed into my NCO style leadership, and I allowed creative thinking, and I allowed my younger soldiers to be a part of the discussion and everything. I just didn't bark orders, and well, I did, but I mean, but I, they knew what orders I was going to bark, when it was time to bark them. So, it
I especially
allowed
liked
for a lot.
the picture of the pole dance you were doing with that lady's bra. That was,
Oh, yeah, I can't even find that picture anymore.
that was a good one.
That was a particular story. The females always wanted to try to, push me to see where I was at on women's rights and women's stances. And so this young soldier, she had to be 18 or 19 at best. She comes up to me, and the Army had issued training bras to the women, Well, of course, I don't know nothing about it. And so she comes up to me and she says, "Sergeant, this training bra is too small." And I thought to myself, well, the correct thing to do in this particular thing would be to tell her to go exchange it. But I thought to myself, no, I need to set a precedence here. So I took my T-shirt off. I took her training bra and I forced it on. And of course, when I did that, the whole tent, the whole company was in this tent, in this one tent. It housed like 100 people. So all 100 people, eyes were on me. as I was bouncing around, shaking and wiggling, and doing this number and all that crap. And she just stood there horrified the whole time. So, people were trying to slip dollar bills into my pants and everything else and everything. Well, when I got done, I took the training bra back off and I handed it to her and I said, now it'll fit. After I stretched it out, And she just, had that look on her face. But
did he really do that?
Yeah.
Okay, don't ask him for anything.
Exactly.
So how did she treat you from there on out?
Just fine.
Really?
Yep. By the time it was all said and done, I had gotten her promoted to sergeant and everything, and I only had one other incident with her. She had 4 other girls living in her billeting area, and I was doing spot check inspections on the living quarters, and we walked in and all their weapons were laying around, but they weren't nowhere to be found. So my right-hand man, who was a staff sergeant at the time, I told him, I said, collect up all the weapons and just leave a note, on the bed of her cot, on her bed, to report to me. And so, I had went and taken a shower. I'd went to chow and everything, and I had all these weapons stored in my room and everything. And I was just conveniently gone all the time. I had an evening meeting I had to go to and stuff, so I was at that. So finally, about 9 o'clock, she's banging on my door, and I have her come in. And she right away wants to get this attitude about how I had no right walking into her living quarters because she was a female. And I said, I'd never got mad. I was actually kind of chuckling because I was kind of shocked at the defense she was going to take. And she talked about how she was going to report me to the higher ups and everything. And I said, if you want to pack up your gear, I said, we can probably head on over to the colonel's building. I can knock on his door and see if he'll spare us a couple minutes. Well, she got to thinking about that, and she was like, well, maybe this is not the right tack. So I said, do you want your weapons back? And she was like, yes, Sergeant. I said, well, drop and give me 50 push-ups.
Oh.
So she gave me 50 push-ups, and I had my battle. Most of you have met my battle, Sergeant Wingate. He was in the room with me because, I would never entertain a female in my room without another male present. Just so there was never any issues of sexual harassment or anything along that line. And so he was there witnessing everything, and she was done. And she left with the weapons and everything, and it was the next day after chow, after showers and all that stuff, we're in our downtime. She came and knocked on my door again, and she wanted to talk to me and everything, and she had said basically that she was sorry and that she felt that the way she had went about it was wrong, and she was worried that I was trying to take her sergeant away from her. And I said, now why would I do that? I said, I just got you promoted to that. Mm-hmm. So, I explained to her, this is what I'm looking for. I said, you were their friends before, but now you have to be their friend and their leader. Which you probably deal with that every day where you work at, because you're a boss and you have subordinates underneath you. So you have to be able to get along with them and take care of them, but at the same time, you have expectations. And so, it's always something.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from being in the military,
I know
taking
you
that
did.
approach, and learning some of those leadership skills and everything. I was able to diffuse situations that probably could have escalated into violence, relatively easy, with kind of a carefree, I don't care attitude, but yet I do care,
I got to say that I have been so appreciative of Heather being your wife, because she has gone through a lot with you, all through those service years, and
Oh yeah.
all the sicknesses you've had and everything, the things you've done. So she's been a real mainstay in your life, which I'm so happy for.
Yep,
And
she has. I will admit that. I
She loves
I couldn't do it without her.
and she loves you more than you know, I think. So.
Well, if she would just show it a little more.
Let's see.